Hello,
No.
welcome back. Good to see you all for episode 2 of Unpicked, Great British Sewing Bee, where we go into detail after every episode, talk about the challenges, critique them, argue about them. We'll
Me?
of course. I'm Stuart from the Woolpatch, and then yes, here's with me Ting to and we'll get through it. So week two, travel week, and before we go any further, did you see the amount of messages on our last video, Ting?
Well, I saw them starting to rack up, yes, after the weekend.
Some phenomenal comments. So I thought before we just go into it, we'll just give you a sneak peek of some of them with my buttons here. First one from Everbee. Look, she wrote and commented, "I'm ready for the slip account." Great to see you both. Lovely. Thank you very much. Lillian, she goes, glad you fellows are back with analysis and critiques. Ting, you are 100% right on the transformation challenge. So many people agree with you there.
Well, when you're as right as I am, you don't have to say it, do you?
And then she says, thanks for all the effort you put into making Unpicked an enjoyable addition to the Great British Sewing Bee. And that was quite an occurrence. Many people said, well, it's like a trilogy now. You've got the Sewing Bee, you've got us with Unpicked, and then you've got Carol with All Gathered Up, which will be coming up later. So it is nice. I wanted to show you Leah's message. It's a long one, but I've got this, if this tool works. Down here, look, can you see? Look, I've put a little nifty arrow. She says, whenever they reveal the transformation challenge, I always pause the show and think of something that I would make, and then I see if someone else has made that same idea. So we're going to do that today. We'll
Are
see
we?
what Ting came up with and mine, and then see if anyone did it on the show. So great idea. If anyone wants Nick Leah's idea, do it, because I think we'll do that for the
See,
rest of this season.
what I do is every time they do something ridiculous, I have a drink, and by the end of the show, I'm flat out on the
You're
floor.
Oh, brilliant. We've then got Joanna, lovely, says, yes, there are some people who want to talk about sewing. There are loads of people who want to talk about sewing. And we're going to do that for the next, well, we've got 9 weeks to go now. We do miss Anya. I'm trying to be the yang to Ting's yin. Is that right? Yin and yang. So thanks, Joanna. And Lois, she says, great to see you back, and that she likes the photos. As this made me laugh, look at this bit here. As for Matthew's IKEA bag dress, remember last week? Enough with the harness already. If anyone with small boobs put that on the nipples, would be in the wind immediately. Just like that phrase, nipples in the wind.
Isn't that a song by Elton John?
Sounds good. And then Nikki, just finished with this one. She goes, I think I've worked out the issues with the transformation challenge. Betty, on loan from Strictly, Ting.
She's been on the gin. She's coming
Absolutely.
up with all these ridiculous ideas.
If you saw our Strictly show before Christmas, this character Betty came up. What was she doing in the costume? She was basically doing all the costumes for Strictly and the Strictly malfunctions of some of the costumes. Well, that's why she's in charge of the transformation challenge. So there we are. We'll be
They're
thinking of
very
her.
tricky with our license fee, aren't they? So she's probably been redeployed up north. She's taken a little
She's
sewing kit with her.
absolutely. Nikki says she's been responsible for sourcing the trash they transform. Oh, so absolutely brilliant. Right, so who have we got left? So last week we sadly had to say goodbye to Catherine. So
We need that sound from was it Family Fortune?
there are 11 sewers left. Right, Ting, I'm going to ask you now, have you got any favourites? Which ones are you looking out for?
Well, I mean, well, I think I said to you on the text, still don't know any of their names. It's really struggling for me as it is. But you know, we've seen Asma's had a couple of good weeks.
Yeah,
So you know, she's got some good skills in there. Oh, I seem to
I
have just
know.
spat on Asma. um, but
Who
then
else?
there's other ones like Tony W. He's clearly a very good sewer.
Yeah.
Um, And I think that's one to watch as well. But
Okay.
we've said it before. You can have a bad week, and that's your lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you remember Marnie from last year?
Well, I think you can.
I
You loved
know.
everything you did.
I, I was absolutely gutted when she went. My ones to watch are I'm going to go for where is she on my screen? Here, Lizzie. Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So and also there's something about Lauren as well. Her makes, but
Yeah,
there are
I can
there
see
are
that.
there are so many. Yeah, like Tony. He's clearly very, very experienced, isn't he? Which I'm sure we'll talk about in today's session. So there we go. So we've sadly lost by said goodbye to Catherine and our 11 left. So let's go into it then. Straight in, everyone, into the pattern challenge, which I've got here. Remember, it's travel week. Everyone was a rucksack. There. What did you think, Ting, when you saw that?
Well, the first slipper went across the
Oh,
screen
already.
already. I
All
mean,
right, here we go.
well,
Slipper
so
one.
I know it was sewing, and I know it was making back, and in fact, it probably was a leveler because I can't imagine many people have made bags. You go onto the sewing bee because you make clothes probably, and there were some skills and that in there. But I just thought, go onto Amazon and buy a rucksack if you need a rucksack. You're not going to waste all that time with your material and your linings and your D rings and your cabling and your
Yeah.
everything. Just go onto Amazon, and if you can't go onto Amazon, let me know. I'll go onto Amazon and
Oh,
I'll buy you a rucksack.
hang on, Tig. Before you go to Amazon, surely you should go and find your local haberdashery.
Why do they sell rucksacks?
No, well, oh, I see. Oh, buying a rucksack. Yes, I thought you meant all your
Yeah.
D rings and things.
No. Oh no. No. Just
Yeah,
buy a rucksack. It's
yeah.
the most ridiculous thing ever.
There, I think, because I was talking about it with the ladies in the shop, and they were saying it was quite refreshing to see something that wasn't a garment, though, because sewing is more than just dressmaking, isn't it? But
It
could it
is,
have
but
not?
next week are we running up a pair of curtains and a pelmet? Because
Yeah,
you know, I get it, and like I said, I think it acted as a bit of a leveler because I don't think anyone has probably sat down and made a bag, or certainly not a bag in that way, shape, or form. So there were plenty of skills in there, but there was also some technical stuff about making sure that you put it in the right way so
yeah.
that the straps were round where they should be and everything like that. And okay, made good telly because as per usual, two or three of them got them round the wrong way and everything
Well,
like that.
as soon as they said that, oh, the straps have got to be on the right way, and because you've got to put them in that way and turn them, you just knew that that was going to be the criteria for judging, didn't you?
Yeah, and I mean, when I first started sewing, because I'm not making dresses for myself. I made a bag for my nephew. I made a pencil case. Just trying to get your sewing skills. But I just felt for the program, I don't know if it was the right thing to do. So the slipper went because I was kind of hoping it was going to be some clothing of some sort. And I know we're
Yeah.
limited with clothing. This is now the ninth series. There's only so many shirts and trousers and everything that you can do. But it's like with the Bake Off or anything. You can still bake a Victoria sponge. You either make a good Victoria sponge or you don't. You
Yeah.
either make a good shirt or you don't. I'm not going to get bored of seeing people put their plackets around the wrong way.
No, exactly right. And also different fabrics. Why can't we see a shirt in, a classic cotton or
A
then
linen.
in a gingham or in
Yeah.
a Georgette? And that's where the skill is, dealing with the fabrics. Whereas this, there were just too many skills with this and too many varied skills. I just thought, and I know they gave them an extra 15 minutes. It wasn't it 3 hours and 15 minutes. Like, what was 15 minutes going to do? But it was just, yeah. I thought
I
too
also
too too hard. But
I also just didn't like it because it's one of those modern, that's because I'm old, modern bags where you just rolled it down and folded it in on itself. And I'm just like, right, well, so if you haven't quite got that fold right or your bag's a bit bulky, that's not going to fold over. Somebody's going to have their hand in and they're going to have your laptop out the back quicker than you can say, I don't know, Fagin.
right, let's take a look at the group shot then. Here they go. There were the 11 finished, well, or unfinished ones.
Generous.
But some did finish, so that is a sign that it was doable.
Do you know what? Even though the ridiculous of the task and everything I've just said about it, there's not a single one in that lineup that didn't really pull off the colours. They all chose
Yeah,
perfect matching linings and outsides, the perfect straps to go with it. You know, you didn't look at any of them and think, "Oh no!" Their colours were brilliant and their
yeah.
patterns and everything coming together. I know some of them got the weights wrong and. Jilly didn't even put a lining in, but she was adamant that she was going to use her lining on the outside. But even that, the colours that she'd chosen were still right. I think they've all got a good eye when it comes to colour.
Oh, without a doubt. And that haberdashery clearly is very well stocked with the lining fabrics to coordinate with the actual fabrics. It's almost as if, right, that's a potential colorway combo. That's a potential colorway combo. And they've, the production team have thought about that.
Well, maybe it's not Betty up here, because if it was Betty, nothing would match, would it?
Well, you mentioned Jilly. Let's take a look at hers close up. And
Well, so
it's difficult. She knew what she wanted to do, didn't she? It was almost like last week. I want this fabric. I'm going to use it. Good on her for that, don't you think?
but they even had the conversation that it was not the right weight, and she didn't even get the lining inside. And I think if she had, which in effect would have the bag inside out with the heavy fabric on the inside, she'd have never got that to fold over at the
No.
top. Which was a shame, because she'd got it the same mustard colour as that's on that strap. So I think it would have looked good, and then you'd have opened it up and it had this lovely teal flash inside. I think, she should have listened to what they said and thought about the weights of the fabric and actually done that. And I think she would have found it a lot easier as well.
Yeah. She. Can you remember that there was one sewer, that was last year or the year before, who kind of almost, right, I'm not going to pay any attention to time. I'm just going to sew, and wherever I get to, that's what will be the finished object. She was kind of like that.
Well,
I'm just going to sew, and if it finishes, it finishes. If it
I,
doesn't, doesn't.
I can't remember who it was, but I know it drove me insane, because she literally just wouldn't stick to any of
Yeah,
the times and would just like stand there, and they kept putting her through, and that really
yeah.
annoyed me. She held on pretty late on in the game, and
It
there was
did,
people going
yeah.
home who I felt
But
shouldn't have gone home, but I can't remember who it was. I'm
it's
sure
it,
one
I
of our eagle-eyed viewers will.
it's where I think you then go, right, I'm not going to do that because I need to get it finished, and you skip that bit or you just pin that on. But yeah, I suppose it's where we're all different, aren't we, with what we're actually doing. So I suppose good on her for sticking to her, right, I'm going to do this and not worry. Another one that struggled was Lizzie, which was one of my favourite ones.
Really? Looking at the state of that? I think the problem she had there again, though, is she'd used the wrong weight, hadn't she? And so it wouldn't fold over properly,
Yeah.
because it should have rolled on itself, and then the weight of the heavier fabric should have held it there, and clearly it's not. Um,
But
yeah,
lovely colourway. Look at those straps there and the lining. It all fits really well, doesn't it? As you said.
yeah, yeah.
Let's go back to the group shot again. When you look at those, now Matthew went for stripes, and you're kind of just going to know. Oh God, that's giving him an extra hard thing to do, isn't it?
But that goes back to what you said at the start here about, finding other things to do. If you want to make a shirt, then make it a striped shirt. Make them pattern match,
Yeah.
because that is a skill in itself. So, he made it doubly hard for himself, because we can clearly see there
Oh
that
yeah.
some of
Yeah.
that lines up at the front there.
Yeah.
Well, you could have made any piece of clothing out of striped fabric, and it could have been any weight of fabric. Like you said, it could be cotton, it could be linen, it could have been
Mm.
whatever. But the pattern matching then becomes the thing, and that's just where I felt that the whole rucksack thing was a bit much, to be honest.
Yeah, because that's hard. Well, you got the zip right there, haven't you? To get those bits, that would have. If he just chose a plane, he
But
could
that's
have.
where, yeah, if you look at it, the colours are brilliant. That blue stripe on the straps fits in perfectly to everything there. But he should have looked at the pattern. Maybe he should have read ahead in the pattern. Sound familiar? And seen that potentially there was going to be a matching up thing there. And that
Yeah.
would have been my point to go. Do you know what? Let's not go with stripes. Let's go with dots. Let's go with flower. Let's do anything but stripes.
Now, one person who did stand out during that round was Tony R. He is a very chilled sewer, reminds me of Damien from last year,
Yeah.
and very competent, and I don't know, just oozes confidence. I'm going to do. He's clearly sewn an awful lot. I know they got out
Well,
some of his bags there that he'd sewn before. Did you see his little, like his bag, like a square bag, like a fishing tackle bag with all his stuff in it and everything?
yeah.
So very,
I'm
very competent.
I'm still struggling with who they all are and like listening to their life story and everything like that. But I
Uh-oh.
had a
The one
feeling
with the
that he
hat.
hadn't been sewing for long. I thought he was one of these ones that had not been doing it for that long,
Oh, I
but maybe I've
can't
got that
remember his
wrong.
backstory because he was on last week, wasn't he? His
Yeah.
backstory, I think. But he's just chilled. He doesn't seem to panic. He went over. It was the way he went over to Jilly during this round and went, "Oh mate, you put your straps on wrong." And it was just
Yeah.
so chilled. And then she was like, "Oh wow, and it was he went over to help, and it was just that manner. I just thought, oh, actually, you're really, yeah, like there's something about him, and he's clearly skilled. He got that done. He took, again, a bit, I suppose, that he's clearly confident because he put that extra camo fabric, didn't he? Which he
Yeah,
didn't
and
need
then
to
he kind of
do.
messed it up a little bit by not making it very even. But I think he possibly could have. I know he put it on there himself, but he could have actually replaced. Like we can see on the left hand side there, it had a little side. Well, on both sides, there's a little side pocket. Why not do the two
Oh yeah,
side pockets in camo? Yeah, there.
yeah.
Why not do the two side pockets in camo and then leave the main bulk of the fabric as it should be? And then that still would have had the same impact because that taupe color along with the camo just works really well.
Oh, doesn't it? Yeah. But then this pop of orange, great, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah,
Uh, yeah, triumph. So let's go back then to the group there. Uh, yes, and we knew what was going to happen when they called out the results, really. So we had Gilly bottom. I won't go through the whole order, but you go to the top three of Tony being third.
yeah.
And then it was, you could see, oh, who's it going to be? Because there was only Asma and Vicky left. And Asma came second, and then Vicky first. And Vicky was, let's take a look at hers. There. Oh, no, that's Tony still. That one. That's
I,
just, I liked her straps. So you can understand why she was there. The straps, the top stitching on the straps was exquisite because it was white as well. It just really
yeah,
popped all the way down on those edges there. Absolutely
the
brilliant.
sewing was very good on it, and you couldn't fault her for that. The colours were good, but I think Patrick mentioned it. It gave it off like skater vibes,
Yeah.
that's what I didn't like. Her sewing was brilliant, and the colours do match the brown and the green, but I didn't actually like it as a pattern on there. If you had all of those bags lined up and I was going to buy one, it wouldn't be this one.
No?
That wouldn't have drawn me to it. That checked fabric, it didn't really do it for me.
Oh,
But
it
you
did.
can't fault the sewing.
No. It reminded me of a picnic. That would be cool to put on. We're going out for a picnic, and in there is all my stuff. So, actually, which one would you buy then if you saw all those in the shop? There you are. There's your.
Well, assuming they were all finished and they weren't going to fall apart, I actually did quite like Jilly's fabric, but I would have also possibly gone for this orange one on the end, the orange and yellow. I
Oh,
quite like that.
Mia's, yeah.
Yeah,
Let's
and I quite like Tony W's colours as well. I probably would have
Mia's is
gone either
there,
something orangey or something bluey greeny.
and Tony W's. Yes, the denim worked with that a treat,
Yeah,
didn't
I'm
it?
not too sure on the lining, but the again the brown and or the taupe and the blue. Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, there we are. We've got through the first challenge with one slipper so far. Let's go through to the one that often causes the discussion, which today in the shop with our knit and natter ladies in the morning, in the afternoon, woo, blimey, it's always the transformation challenge. And most people in the video comments from last week talk about the transformation challenge. And I know sometimes we moan about this show. It's because we love it so much. When you get passionate about something, I've often said this before, it's like match of the day. You love your football, you watch it, but afterwards you have a go at that player and you analyse that player and you break it down because you have such a passion for it. The transformation challenge is the one that often gets broken down tremendously, doesn't it? So, transformation challenge. Remember, it's travel week as well, so it was the windbreak.
Oh dear God! The second slipper went just at the basic concept of what it was, because who is going to use a windbreak? Who's going to sit there on holiday and go, "Oh, the weather's shocking. Pass me over that windbreak, Barry. I'm going to run myself up a Mac." It's just not going to happen, is it?
No,
I don't
but
care how poor you are. You're not going to sit there and think, "Oh, I know what would make a fashion statement. That old windbreak we've got at the back of the shed that the mice have been eating."
no, true. But let's put that to one side. That this is supposedly a creative round. It's not set in reality. But in that case, it did work, didn't it? A windbreak with that nylon-y, like ripstop material into a rain jacket. I can see the link there.
Well, if we got rain jackets, but I'm looking
Oh,
along here, and there's a few places I'm not seeing rain jackets.
well, let's go over the brief. What they said, they wanted improvised rainwear from the windbreak, but almost like in just an add-on towards the end, just before they said go away. They said, but it needs to have some exciting sculptural garment. It needs to be an exciting sculptural garment. So, as if it's not hard enough just to make a raincoat, they've now got to think of the windbreak and because it is hard, it is sculptural. I can understand that. They've now got to put that into the concept as well, haven't they?
I mean, I know it's adding another element to it, but we have to remember they've got 90 minutes to do
Yeah.
this. And you don't know what's coming. So, to me, if it was an improvised rain device, I would simply pull it out of the sand and hold it over my head as I walked back to the car. Is that not improvised rain device?
Well, let's go back to Leah. Leah said she pauses it at this point and says, "What would she make?" Well, we did that as we were watching. We paused it. Said to Ting, after I said, "What would you make?" I said I'd make a poncho or a cape like Little Red Riding Hood. Ting, you said, "What would you make?"
A bonfire.
Bonfire.
I would put a match to it rather than waste my time doing that.
That's when after you can see the second slipper had just been hurled, can't you? Well, let's look at the raincoats. Raincoats there. Some are more raincoaty than others. Some, like a full garment, they were doing dresses, which I don't understand. When you've only got 90 minutes, why give yourself more work to do?
Well, I mean, what you could do is that one that's basically in the middle there is just make a big bow to stick on front of you. It's not going to keep you dry at all. It's just going to be a big bow on the front.
So that was Mia's.
Look at it.
The bow is the sculptural element, but will
Right,
it?
but where's the improvised?
Will it
Where?
the raincoat? Yes. Where will it keep you dry when on the
No,
beach?
no.
Oh dear, brilliant. There was some good raincoats there, though. They obviously thought, right, there's not much fabric. Let's
Well,
take
I
it
was going
down
to
and
say.
do a raincoat for a kid.
Well, I was going to say the opposite because actually, I was surprised at how much fabric. When you consider that there's what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, which are basically full-on coats for an adult. I was surprised at how much fabric was there. I mean, I can see
Mm.
what you're saying, do it for a child, but that wasn't the thing, was it? So I presume it was supposed to be for an adult. I know they didn't necessarily specify that, but there clearly was enough fabric there to do it with.
Oh, yeah, yes, it came across like that. Well, let's take a look at a few. First of all, we have asthma there.
I mean,
And as soon as I saw this, I just knew that Esme was just going to love it. She was going to pick this one. Is that going to
yeah,
keep you dry?
no, shall I tell you for why? Because when you've got that on
Good.
and you've
You're
got
going to
that
tell
big
us.
collar up here, it's going to catch all the rain and it's going to send it shooting down your back. You're going to have a nice
Absolutely.
wet bum.
Yeah, it's going to go right down there, right
Yeah.
down there, isn't it? Viewers, and I bet you all thought the same when it cut to this. Yeah, Esme was absolutely loving it. And I can see why she loved it from
Well,
that creative side, that sculpture
design-wise,
side. It does work, doesn't it?
design-wise, it works, but it doesn't work if you're going out in the rain. Esme,
No.
put it on and we'll stick a hose on you. Let's see how dry you stay in it.
Just funneling it down, yeah. And that's where you've got to argue, like, come on, yeah, you've got half of the concept right, but it's not. Is it really going to work as a raincoat? As we can't,
No.
can it come first? But clearly, well, we'll talk about that in a minute. Oh, that was funny, wasn't it? Then we have Fauve's little number,
Well, I
which
mean, if you want to catch a cold on your chest, then maybe. But I mean, at least the rest of it looked like a coat that you might put on over the top if you were a very small person. Anyway,
and it worked. I like the belt idea. You know,
yeah,
you
yeah. Just needed a
remember
bit more of a collar that you could perhaps pull around.
what the top here, round what like a.
Oh no, like lapels that you could
Oh
perhaps swap
yes, yeah.
over.
We'll talk about Jilly because obviously Jilly was in the bottom of the first round, so already she was going to be one to focus on, and there was Jilly's one. Did she
I
do
mean,
enough to redeem
it wasn't that
herself?
bad. It wasn't that, considering that she probably was one of the few that took it a bit more literally, because that looks like it would go over your clothes.
Yes, yeah, yeah, and the rain would keep you protected, wouldn't it? The rain would just fall
I mean,
down.
I'm still struggling with how you sat on the beach with your windbreak up, and some reason you've taken your sewing machine onto the beach with you, and it starts to rain, and you go, "Oi, Barry, pass us that over quick before we get to the car. I'm just going to run this one up for you."
And let's look at the ones that did something small. We have got Vicky, haven't we? Which was a
Well, that
fun one because
yes.
you knew they were going to hone in on the crotch, but that's only because it's on the model. It's tight, isn't it?
Well, well, I mean, this is where you kind of say, "Well, who was it for?" Because
Yeah,
if you'd have gone and made it as a child's jumpsuit, it would have been fine. As an adult, it was going to fit where it touched. But the basic premise, and we've shown. I mean, I don't quite know why the top is so baggy and the trousers are so tight.
yeah.
I don't know why there wasn't a bit of evening out of the fabric between those. But it's going to keep you dry.
Absolutely. And let's not forget how long it actually takes to put in a zip. That's another sort
Well,
of
I mean,
15 minutes, boom, 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 maybe at the
yeah.
most.
I mean, the only thing that worries me about that one is that you're going to be sweating like a pig in it, aren't you? At the end of the day,
Yes.
because it's plastic. At the
Yeah.
it's not going to it'll be keeping the rain out, but it's going to also stop the sweat from going the other way. That's all going to pull at your ankles as well, isn't it?
Ones that I thought were going to do really well, but perhaps not as in the end was Lizzie's one, which was this
Yeah,
idea that your hands come out. There were holes at the side here, so your hands can come out either side to hold a beverage whilst it's
yeah.
still raining. But that's going to work, isn't it? The rain's going to wash down and
I
away,
thought
isn't
that.
it?
I mean, the way they
You
went
know.
after her by saying, "Oh, she put the ruffle down the front and she should have put the loops." Well, it doesn't really matter. As a functional garment, I think that's one of the
Yeah.
few that actually would work.
And as I say, there's two elements to that criteria, isn't there? There's the raincoat, and then suddenly this add-on of a sculptural part.
Well, that looks
But
sculptural.
indeed, yes, it's got the pleats in it, and it's coming out, isn't it? And there was someone else that, let's go back to the group one because I can't remember who it was, that did the ruffles round the neck. Oh yes, it was on the above my head there. Is that right? No, this way.
That way, yeah.
Had all the ruffles round the front. And I just thought the same as what you were going to say there, Ting. That'll just...
They'll just collect all the rain. It'll end up looking like the Elephant Man walking
Was it
down
Lauren?
the
I
front.
think
You'll all be weighed down.
I think it was Lauren. Yes, there it was, isn't it? But this is beautiful ruffle work. But it will just push. Yeah. But there we are. We jest, don't we? We jest. Let's go back to the group. So the final. So we're on slipper 2. The stand was Vicky was at the bottom there, bless her, for the little kiddie's crotch one, and Lizzie 10th. And I'm like, what? This is where I was saying to you, it's like that should have been higher. Lizzie's. This one is Lizzie's. That should have been higher. Yeah. So that was 10th, and that one was 11th, wasn't it?
This was where the third slipper went.
Oh, did it?
Well, so last week you and I had a rather heated debate over, is it Matthews, the one who made the top with the slashes and the nipple poking out of
we did.
And I was like, well, that's totally unwearable. It's rubbish. And you were like, no, it's not. It's a concept piece.
Yeah.
Right? So then we get to this week's transformation challenge.
Creativity.
And when it comes to the judging, they turned round and then actually said, well, it's not very wearable.
Yeah.
It's not practical. And it's like, right, so what you're actually saying is that in 90 minutes, with this pile of horrendous fabric, you've actually got to make something that's wearable.
Yeah.
So why was last week it all right to have a tiny little strip of fabric going over a boob that would easily stay not under control, but that was somehow wearable? And then this week they were misjudging people because they were not wearable. And they were.
Or then, our top 3 was Tony R, Tony W. Which one was Tony W? Let's have a quick look at Tony W's.
I'm missing a slipper.
Let's hide that. Oh, you just threw a slipper at that one, didn't you? Yeah, there you are. Yeah. There we are. Slipper gun is on. Tony W's was that one. It was Tony
W's. Yes, the binding around the neck.
Yeah, and look at that pleating around here. Look,
when you need that binding around the neck because that fabric's going to slash into it. You look like Jack the Ripper's had a go at you.
And then first place, which we just knew was going to happen. Was Asper.
The rain catcher.
Yeah. So there we go. So we have this thing about wearability. And you just wouldn't, would you?
No.
So but as Esme said, she does. I think this challenge is on creativity. So creativity trumped everything.
Yeah, but that's fine. But then don't stand there and say this isn't wearable to other people's ones. You know, if it's a creative challenge where it's a concept, then fine. But then don't stand here this week and go, well, this isn't wearable. Therefore, it's not as good as the others. Either the transformation challenge is a wearable garment or it's a load of rubbish. Well, either way, it's always a load of rubbish.
And I think I know there are some people that it's just a TV program, just enjoy it. But I think I would enjoy it more if they tightened up the criteria, get it nailed so everyone knows where they stand, and then no one can complain. You know what it's like. I'm an ex-teacher. You're still teaching. If you get that criteria, even the slightest bit hazy, you're going to get kids coming up to you. So, well, he did that, and I only got 4 out of 10, and he got 6 out of 10. But you said, and then it's all a muddy mess, isn't it?
Well, and also, this lot don't have a right to reply. You know, I know they're all there working together and they're probably all friends. But, I'd be like, well, hang on a minute. Hers isn't wearable.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
would, if that was me, I'd be like, hang on, why is this better than that? Why is the one with the big bow that is not going to keep you dry better than the poncho that is a functional rainwear item?
On the head, nail on the head completely. Right, let's move to made to measure because that was going to cause a discussion, wasn't it? Made to measure swimsuit. Let's get this right. It's a swimsuit, and it's all about the fit. But again, another little add on just to make it a little bit harder, some sort of complex element to it. We don't want a one piece swimsuit, which I can understand because a one piece swimsuit maybe, well, for however many 5 hours, may not create something exciting enough or cause enough mishaps. So the complex element was the one that was perhaps going to cause most of the judging. But
Right.
it's whether it was a swimsuit or was it a garment that you wear by the pool, like a sunsuit. That's where it got a bit blurry, didn't it?
Well, I'll tell you what I would have done. I would have just made a basic swimsuit and then put a big old bow on the shoulder because Esme loves a bow and go, there's my complex feature. I'm just going to go and put the kettle on for the next 4 hours.
Okay.
It was, it
Yeah.
was just kind of, it was kind of ridiculous again. I mean, it worked itself out because obviously they all chose different features. Unlike last week where they had to have a cutout and the features, some of them were ruffles, some of them are,
Yeah.
so it was a bit more variety than perhaps what we had last week.
Well,
But
let's
I
have a.
still, part of it was like, it's swimwear.
Yeah.
It's still, I say it's easy. I've never made any, but equally, there were some people who clearly couldn't get it quite right. But at the same time, you think, well, there's not hundreds of thousands of pieces of fabric there that they're working with, and it's lycra, which is going to take some of the weight for you
Yeah.
in
Well,
terms of the fit.
let's have a look through them. I've got all 11 here lined up, so we can scoot through in 10 minutes and have a look at them all. As the made measure is all about. There is a stronger weighting for sure on the made to measure, so it'd be nice to look through them all. Vicky's there.
Yeah,
Swimsuit. That's a swimsuit, isn't it?
yeah, it's fine. I actually quite like that one, the old
Yeah.
Battenberg
Yeah.
concept.
And
I mean, it
the
is just a
points.
swimsuit with sleeves.
Yes. Well, what's the complex element to it there? Do you think the
I have
V,
no idea. That
low
was,
V,
it was.
the plunging V, and the
I mean,
belt?
I would be frightened to go swimming in it with that plunging V, but there we go.
Well, this is where, as we'll
I don't
get
want to
through
get
the
told too
stage,
much.
that we go into swimwear as sunsuits, which I think are back in is it the 30s, 40s, and 50s, where you would just come out in it, a bit like Tony W's. That is more of a sunsuit rather than a swimsuit. That was almost
Yeah,
something like you knock out a tennis, wasn't it? I loved it myself.
I again because we had the not we could even see it's that noticeable. We had the thing where it didn't quite line up, and
Yeah,
part of me was like, "That's the one thing you had to do."
yeah.
There wasn't really anything. I'm not saying the rest of it was easy, but that was the one thing that was going to stand out, and you needed to have that right. But lycra is very unforgiving. You can't keep unpicking it and everything because when you sew it, it does ruin the fabric.
Cool.
You
Yes.
you're
That.
talking about starting again with another piece. You can't keep unpicking lycra.
Yeah.
So I understand his frustration, especially we've said it before. If I was making it at home, it gets slung in the corner for a couple of days, and I'd come back to it, and then I'd unpick it, cut another piece out, and sew it on. This is a competition. They're timed. They've got no choice. They've got to have something ready in 5 hours or whatever it was. So he had to keep running with it. But it was part of the thing was like that's the one thing you had to make sure you got.
And remember, I presume they're back home now. There's no COVID. They're at home for a week. Are they? We don't know
I
whether
don't know how the format
yeah.
maybe they still condense it down because Betty's got to get to Scarborough for a holiday, so she's not spending 10 weeks filming this.
Then we've got Tony R.
That's another 1940s inspired that shape with the the straight skirt going across the front, is
Yeah.
very Marilyn. I know there was another one that was a bit Marilyn Monroe, but
Yeah.
that very 50s type design. Again, liked it. Wasn't too sure on the old Crocs and woolly hat,
No.
but there you go.
It's certainly his thing. They're marrying that up. I don't know what the complex element to it was there. I can't remember the back. I haven't got a picture of the back there. Maybe it was a scoop out the back. But
No, I think it was the fact that he got I mean, is it a skirt? The fact that because it's not a skirt. If she
oh,
was to lift that
right.
up, so I think it's the fact that it's got that panel on the front.
Ah, right. Oh, okay. Mia, swimsuit? You definitely wouldn't go swimming in that, would you?
Well, I'd be more worried that this poor lady here would be dragged under with the weight of all the fabric that would get soaked with water. I know it was scuba, but there's a lot of fabric there.
Yeah.
She'd struggle getting her arm up, wouldn't she, to do with crawls? She was going along.
But scuba, using that and then doing that with the sleeves
I
is
mean,
impressive.
it is, and if you go down that route of something that you're wearing to the beach,
Yeah.
rather than doing your stretches before you do your Olympic Rebecca
Yeah.
Adlington lengths, then yes, the sculptural element is there.
The colours, don't know whether the colours do it for me there, but
I think they were
each
complementary. I think they
each to
work.
their own.
Yeah,
The pink and the, what would you say, salmon? Is that salmon or coral?
coral, I would have
Yeah.
said. Yeah, and
Then
a
we
dusty
have
rose on top.
Matthew, who
Yep.
clearly I felt from here. Oh, it was like, oh no. And I'm going to, sorry, Matthew, if you're watching this, I'm going to make it even worse now because I've got a close up. Oh. And you just thought, felt his pain there with those darts.
They're not even darts, are they?
Well,
They're
I
more of a
think
gather.
he knew it was too baggy, didn't he? So he had to try and take some in.
But
But
that's again the time pressure because
yeah,
those darts need to be lower. If you're going to put a dart in there, they need to be lower, and they need to obviously be equal so that it pulls the fabric in the
yeah.
same way to then make it fit.
But I loved this as a sunsuit rather than a swimsuit. Just loved it. The flow, the colours, the style, that lovely that diagonal there, and the fabric choices. Oh, just yeah, lovely.
Yeah,
One of my favourites. Had he got that, maybe
I
even
mean, I think based on what he'd done this week, he was lucky to stay. I think
it, yeah. Where was he?
there wasn't a lot of redeeming stuff with that swimsuit. Yes, the colours and that and the basic silhouette was fine, but some of the sewing wasn't great, and he really did dodge a slipper this week.
Yeah, he was in the lower end of the pattern challenge. He was 8th out of 11, but he was kind of high up in the transformation round. But as we know, the transformation round doesn't really give much weight or often save you there. So,
No.
Maria, now that's a swimsuit, isn't it? But the
Yep.
complex element, is it the bow
It was the
there?
paneling and the I
Yeah,
think it was ruched in areas as well, wasn't it? And like she made the point that putting all those panels in then made it easier to fit because of course you can just take in those
absolutely.
different panels. Whereas if you've only got the two bits of fabric, it's very difficult when you've just got one seam because it's got to fit all around the body. Whereas here she could tweak those four seams,
Mm.
1, 2, 3, 4 on each of those, and I'm not sure what she had around the back as well.
I've got a
But
picture of the back because it stood out. I quite liked it, and I was like, "Oh, that's clever. Look at
yeah,
that."
see, so because she got that open back to
Yeah,
make it fit, she had to fiddle with those four seams.
yeah. Oh, you've stopped. I'll keep going just in case you come back again. Then we've got Lizzie. No, you actually have gone
Oh,
now.
hello, are you
Oh,
back?
you're back. You're back. Hello. So there's Lizzie, the one who we said at the beginning, I'm watching out for. I was
Well,
sort of clenching a bit here because, like, well, Lizzie, you were like 10th really the bottom for the pattern challenge, and then 10th again for the transformation. So if anyone
Isn't
was going
that
to go, it was going to
exactly
be
what I
her.
said I'd do? I'd just make a
Yeah,
swimsuit and put a ruffle around it. So why
yeah.
did that take 5 hours to do?
Well, let's look at the back. Can we look at the back? Hello? No, I
But
can't look at
it
the
is just
back.
a basic swimsuit at the end of the day.
Oh, there we go.
And this is where I was kind of like with you going, oh, I think Lizzie, I think Lizzie. I was like, but it is just a basic swimsuit with a ruffle around the outside, and it took her five
Yeah, but
hours.
let's not
Then you had
demean
those other ones.
how easy it is to do a ruffle. I don't think it's that easy to do a
No,
ruffle, is it?
but she didn't do it right, did she? I'm just I'm just struggling with the idea
Yeah.
that you think she's one to watch because I just felt that this week that again she dodged a slipper. Her and Matthew and Jilly were all circling the
Yeah.
drain, I think, and they were lucky. I think what this does show, I mean, okay, there was a little bit of a ripple where the ruffle was sewn on, but everything else was fine. So it kind of saved her in that respect. It's like if you're going to do something that simple, then make sure the rest of it is okay. And I think the main
Yes.
part of the swimsuit was fine. It was just where the ruffle was attached at some point.
I expect it was a close conversation, really, when you've got to think, well, she was 10th twice. Gilly kind of was higher in the transformation round. So it was going to be between her and Gilly, really. So this probably,
Yeah.
well, it did save her because, we'll soon see. So there's Lizzie, Lauren, which I loved this. That was so cool.
Yeah, okay.
No? Did it not float your boat?
I mean, I didn't. No, it didn't float my boat.
No?
I appreciate what she had to do it because without the second strap, you've got to have all that structure in the
Yeah.
top to keep it where it is. So that is a skill in itself. But I didn't. I know I'd never wear one, but I couldn't see myself going, oh, yes, that seems like something practical I'd wear to the beach. I'd be constantly conscious that I was missing a strap.
Yes, yeah, it's true. But when you look at the criteria, that is, I think, a classic swimsuit or a cool swimsuit.
Yeah.
I don't know though. Let's think about the
I think,
practicalities of it. You probably wouldn't do a breaststroke in that because as Lois said at the beginning,
I
you
think
know, they might be out in the wind again or out in the waves.
I think that when you put that buckle on, though, it becomes more of the sunsuit that you were talking
Yes,
about. I could
yeah,
see her
yeah,
with a little sarong
yeah,
wandering round by the pool,
yeah,
glass in hand. I
yeah.
can't
With
see
a
her diving in again, giving Rebecca Adlington a run for her money.
nice cocktail. Yeah, definitely somewhere warm. Three more to go. Jilly. Well,
I
we
mean, after everything we've said,
yeah,
it was just a basic swimsuit that had a
yeah,
bit of beading around it, and
yeah,
that
yeah.
in itself wasn't good enough
No,
to
wasn't
against
that bit
all
there.
the others that were made.
Yeah, and you can see why you look at it was between Lizzie. Oh, let's take Lauren out. Sorry, Jilly. There. Let's try and learn our names. Um, if they were looking at those two at the bottom, which they probably were, you can understand why in the end
Yeah.
it had to be Jilly.
The
But
ruffle is a
because
little bit more of a skill than the beading.
yeah, and I think Matt, because of Matt's higher transformation round, because Matt was higher than Jilly. Jilly was still seventh, so he was kind of safer there. Fauve, the mermaid fabric. I wasn't too sure about the weighting of this one. To me,
No,
this is this not too high? Should that mermaid fabric not come down to about there?
I
In
don't.
my
I honestly don't know. I think it's that crossover of design.
right,
Because the 1950s and 60s again would have been very high waisted, bottoms on a
yeah.
bikini or something. So I think it's taking a nod from that. I think if the mermaid fabric was much lower, I think it might have been too much mermaid.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
I think it is a style choice, I suppose.
Oh, if you know, viewers, let us know in the comments and add your opinion to that. And then we finished with Asthma, which was looking great from the design from the start. Was looking
I,
that's
I
going
just,
to
I'm sorry, but it wasn't just asthma. There were other people like Lycra. Now, I've never sewn with Lycra, but I also know not to put my swim shorts on the ironing board. I, I,
Yeah,
I just don't know what any of them were thinking, because it wasn't just asthma, it was others, which then
yeah,
makes you question, I suppose with their experience, if they're only used to making clothes, like shirts and trousers and everything, they know that if they can put a bit of heat on and to get a crease to hold or something like that, I get that. But you should know about lycra and other, not synthetic fabrics and irons, surely.
yeah. I think they did, and I know because I would have done the same. I would have gone, I need to get this flat. I'll put it on a low heat, very low, and I'll just press it. And then you look at it and it goes, oh, that's working. And then what you do is you do it again, and then, oh, that's perfect. And then you just do it one more for luck, and then, and then it goes. That's what happens. And that's exactly what she did because they want it done
Which
quickly. So you risk
which is a
things, don't you?
shame, because
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
swimsuit with all the ruching down the side is
Oh,
phenomenal.
this.
I
Yeah,
don't,
absolutely.
I don't quite know, because she must have been trying to hide something if she was trying to iron it. I would have thought maybe it wasn't. Maybe those dark panels were not quite as flat as they should be, and she thought perhaps she could iron it out. But the work had been done by those
Mm.
ruffles. No one would have said anything about those centre panels if they hadn't been ironed and then melted in the way they did.
But it's just exquisite. The
And I'm not just getting
subtle
at
difference
asthma.
in that colour. And
Yeah, but I'm
then,
not just getting at asthma. There was more
no.
than one of the
Oh,
sewers who
oh,
was
they were.
trying to iron
Yeah,
lycra.
they did mention it. They did mention it. I just got my only, and this again, it's color, and you can't really criticize with color because it's about sewing. Really, it's about the creation. But is that not just too dark a brown?
No, I
Because
think
does it not
if you
pop so
think,
much it makes you look at those bits?
well, I mean, yes, but if you think back to her inspiration, this was the one where she actually used the Marilyn Monroe as an
Yes.
inspiration.
Yeah.
Marilyn Monroe had that dark brown,
Yeah.
and taupe coloured swimwear. I think it's a very good design, and you could see how that could be three blues or three greens or three.
Mm,
You could see in a shop them lined up in different
yeah.
colours. It was a very marketable pattern, I think.
Would it have looked even better if it was a little ditzy print, not a solid?
No, no, no. It's got to be
Okay.
solid.
Right, let's move on then.
Because
There we go.
otherwise you lose the ruffles, the work that the ruffles is doing. You're distracted from that if you have a pattern print in there.
So then we go for garment of the week before we see who goes home. And garment of the week was there we go. That's not asthma. It was Mia,
Yep. I
which
think she deserved it for those sleeves. I think the work that, because
absolutely,
scuba is not easy
yeah,
to sew with anyway,
no,
and to put in all of those pleats and then have them come out as
yeah.
those sleeves. I think that was work that was deservedly recognised.
Absolutely. And then we've got our sadly, as always, who went home. We've touched on it. It was going to be a close one between Gilly, Lizzie, maybe Matt, but Matt, or Matthew, sorry, I don't know what he prefers, whether Matthew got fourth in the transformation round, Gilly was seventh. So it really was, I think, pretty much between Gilly and Lizzie.
Stop getting all fancy with your pen.
And I'm like, now,
I think you'll find that
yeah.
if we check back in the messaging, I called Jilly at 14 minutes past.
Get off,
I
did
do
you?
believe the message was, "Oh, Jilly's in a bit of spot of bother."
Oh,
At 14
yeah.
minutes past, and yeah, that I mean, maybe I saw it in the tea leaves, but yeah, I think
Yeah.
I just felt that they'd shown her having a bit of a struggle at the start, and we kind of picked up on that last year, didn't we? With our, I can't remember what the time limit was, but it was something like 13, 14 minutes, wasn't it? So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think I took a punt and went, well, I think she's having a bit of a nightmare of a week. And
Yeah.
she
So,
will have done. She's an experienced sewer of making dresses and clothes for
absolutely.
her grandchildren and everything
Yeah.
like that. Not making bloody rucksacks and weather wear out
Yeah.
of stupid windbreakers and swimsuits. Again, if you really want a swimsuit, I'll buy you a swimsuit. Don't faff around trying to make it with lycra. It's ridiculous. But I feel that for someone who was very experienced like Jilly, I feel that tripped her up this week because she couldn't easily adapt to
Yeah.
those different garments that she's probably never gone anywhere near
No.
before.
No. But where she might go near in the future is CBBS and reading stories to go to sleep to.
Or if not, she can send her recordings to you, can't she?
Oh right, let's look at the slipper count there as we get to the end of the show. Oh my word, 3. I'm going to write
And
that
it's only
down.
week 2.
Let us
Make
know.
sure you put in the comments how many slippers you threw as well. How many times?
Absolutely. I would have thought there'll be a lot. I think it was the idea of travel week alone, but yes, probably
There's
the
more travel
windbreaks.
next week, isn't there? We're off to Africa next week.
I know. Yeah, we're going to get glorious colour, glorious prints.
And a guest judge. And I did confirm last night that it wasn't me.
So we're going to have to wait. We'll leave you hanging there on guessing who that judge is. Thanks very much. We love reading your comments, and it's good to then have a chat about them on next week's show too. Read them all, and we answer them all. Well, if we've got time, but I'm up to date so far. But we love reading it. We love having you watching. It makes a big impact on the experience of the sewing bee in general. So thanks very much, and we'll see you next week then as we go abroad. See ya. Bye-bye.
Bye.